Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Bullony Basketball. Here today with my man, Sam Darnold's forehead. If you guys follow the page, you've seen him many times before. How's it going?
I'm honored to be here as always. There's no better time in my month than when I get invited to be on the show.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I think we're going to start with the team that's probably been playing the best basketball of anyone lately, being that they're the only undefeated team. That is the Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis in particular, looking like he could potentially be on the way to his third MVP as of the early season and everything. So I guess I'll ask you, like, do you think maybe the Bucks look like the team to beat right now, and do you think Giannis looks like the best player in basketball right now?
I definitely think the Bucks are one of the biggest contenders, especially in the East. But there'll be a lot of good teams to beat, especially down the road when the trade deadline comes. You never know what moves people are going to make. But the Bucks just have so much depth around Giannis too. Brooke Lopez, Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, and they don't even need Middleton right now. Tough to beat people like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I agree. I think that the Bucks are definitely one of the best contenders in the East and the NBA as well. Um, I don't know how much I trust, just their whole cast. I mean, I know Holiday has stepped up recently offensively a little bit. Brooke Lopez has played pretty well. I think he's played the best he's played in like 6 years so far this season. And then there's Bobby Portis as well. But like these other guys like Wes Matthews and George Hill and Grayson Allen or whatever. Like I don't know how much I trust them necessarily. I think also when Pat Connaughton is back and at 100%, I think that's another piece that will help them out too. But yeah, like I think they're doing it all without Middleton, and that's the biggest thing. It's not like they played like really too many easy teams either. I mean, like they played the Hawks the other day, and the Hawks they were looking like the best team in the Eastern Conference, probably at least one of them until they played against them. They beat Philadelphia, I believe, as well. And they played, I forget who they played. I think it was, unless they played Philadelphia in that first game. But the point is, like, they played some pretty elite teams, playoff caliber teams, and they're still getting it done. I think, personally, for me, Giannis, I've said, like, there's a few contenders who could be maybe best player in the world. I think at this given moment in time, it's hard to say anything other than him, being that, their team has been so successful, being what he has out right now, and still getting the job done. I think it's pretty impressive. But, yeah, I don't know how much I trust them as a team more so than I just trust Giannis as an individual. But I guess we'll just have to see. I mean, right now they're, I guess, proving me wrong. So, yeah. But yeah, if you want though, we can move on. Talk a little bit about Damian Lillard. Obviously he was playing also MVP caliber the first few games and everything like that. The Blazers currently are 5-1. They're playing the Grizzlies tonight, but he's not going to be available. And he has a calf strain. They said he'd probably be like a week or two. I think they said that about a week ago. So I'm sure he'll be back soon. But I mean, these next few games, I think the early season, there's certain teams where maybe like if you're playing so well, you could almost ride that momentum at least through a majority of the season, get a playoff spot and everything like that. Do you think maybe like this kills their momentum? Maybe it brings them back down to maybe like a 500 team and then things get harder? Or do you think, maybe some of these other guys, like their new additions, like, I mean, Simons is getting a bigger role. They got Jeremy Grant on the team now. Shaden Sharp, just a more defensive-minded team. Do you think that that's enough to, I guess, hold them through over this stretch, and then they're going to keep building on that? What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like the Blazers are one of the teams that are lucky enough to have a backup that when the starter goes down, he can play kind of the role that Lillard is playing. And that's what Simons kind of does. Like, his first few games, he got no assists. He really wasn't playing as well. And then as soon as Lillard's out, he's getting like 7 assists, and he's really carrying the team. But they have a lot of good players. So I feel like they're not you can't expect them to go undefeated, even with Lillard or without Lillard, but they can definitely get enough wins to keep them right there in the hunt and really even be a playoff team.
Yeah, I think like so for me too. I mean, we're not gonna really talk about I guess the Jazz on this show in particular, but like they're I guess like a good example where it's like right now they're 6-2. You know, if like they keep playing at a high level, you know, who's to say like they get like to 11-4 or something like that, and then like it kind of like carries over throughout the season, at least to a certain degree, where they're still gonna be competitive all the way throughout. And I think like for the Blazers, I think everyone expects them to at least be like top 10, top 11 teams in the West. Like they're not really like in the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes or anything like that. I would say, but at the same time too, like maybe it's like oh they could have just got off to a hot start, and this is probably like the worst time that it could have happened. Like I would almost I guess like to seen them. You know they're 5-1 right now. Like what if they pushed that to like 10-2 or 10-3? I mean, it's really hard to, I guess, blow a start like that unless maybe you're like the Wizards last year because I think they started out like just as good. But you know, I mean, it's definitely going to hurt them to some degree. But I think like their defensive identity is a little bit better. And like you said, like Simons, he can play that role. You know, I think Josh Hart has been probably one of the more underrated players since he came into Portland, and that even includes like last year. For that like month and a half, 2 month stretch. I just think people weren't paying attention because like the Blazers were kind of like tanking at that point. And then obviously like yeah, like their rookies, Shaedon Sharpe, Nasir Little, they just have like I think a lot. Justice Winslow, like it's a little bit different from previous years. It's a little bit like how the team was, I guess, like a few years ago when they made the Western Conference Finals. Except I think these guys are a little bit more talented, not necessarily as great of a shooting team. And I think Simons isn't quite what CJ was, at least yet. But I think like defensively and talent wise, like those guys are able to do a lot more than the other guys used to, like Aminu and Harkless or Evan Turner. You know what I mean? So I think the Blazers are still going to be good. It does kind of stink, but yeah, that's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I guess we could move on here. We could talk about. We don't have to talk too much about this, but you know the Spurs waiving Joshua Primo. He was their first round pick, not this past draft, but the year before. And he was the 12th overall pick, so it was kind of surprising, you know, to waive a guy like that. I know he wasn't playing great, but I guess like he exposed himself to several women. They're kind of gonna reveal more details, I think, on it next week. They said, but I guess what did you make of this news?
I think the thing that we just have to realize that humans, pro athletes specifically, are going to make decisions that are just not good for their lives. And like when we saw Miles Bridges last year and so many other players, like when the news breaks that Primo got cut, I think everyone assumed, like, okay, what did he do wrong? Because you don't just cut your first round guy from a year ago or even 2 years ago, honestly. So you'd hope that he figures out and maybe he could get back at some point. But when something like that happens, you really can't expect that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, obviously Joshua Primo, he's kind of still a raw prospect, at least from what I've seen. Like he's not like one of the most elite young players in the league. I think maybe he has potential that he hasn't reached yet. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna get into like the Nets here in a second, but like it's a really similar, I think, to like the whole Ime Udoka thing, like that happened just a few months earlier. It's like I don't know exactly when this took place, but it's like if it took place after, it's like what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like how are you not learning from this? So for me personally, I don't know. I just think like situation like that, like you should be able to be more responsible and like more aware of stuff you put on social media or stuff you do like behind closed doors. Like nothing. I think it was Draymond who said it. Like he said like nothing in like the NBA like is a secret anymore. I think it's because he said that like when he had that fight with Poole, and he's like nothing stays behind closed doors anymore. And then like this isn't gonna stay behind closed doors obviously because people are gonna speak up about it like whenever it happens. So And I mean, the Spurs personally, I mean, they're playing well, and they have a lot of young guys already that are, I think playing the way that they want them to play. I don't think they really cared much about like having Joshua Primo in there anymore. It stinks because like you kind of wasted a first round pick, but I think that's just kind of how they see it. But um, I don't know. That's just kind of how I see it. I don't know if you have anything else to add there though.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, no matter what you do, people are going to find out, especially in this time. So if someone does something that's going to give the team a bad look in any way, and you're not needed, the team's just going to get rid of you. So he's not at a point in his career where he can be doing things like that. And then you see the moments where a star does something wrong, and somehow it kind of gets swept under the rug, and they're kept there. But
Yeah, um, for sure. But I mean, speaking of, as I was speaking about Ime Udoka, this kind of ties in with the Nets. I know you're probably going to have a lot to say about this, but so, the other night before your Nets played my Bulls, Steve Nash gets fired earlier in the day. They talked to Sean Marks. They talked to Kevin Durant about it after the game. And now there's, it seems likely that they're going to hire Ime Udoka. I haven't seen like 100% confirmation yet, but all the signs from like Woj and Sham say that like that's the direction they're leaning toward heading. Like is planning to find a contract where they can sign Ime Udoka. So I guess like this whole situation. I mean, the Nets right now, like not to, no offense to your team, but they don't look too hot right now. Tell me, what do you think is going on with the team? Who deserves maybe the blame for Steve Nash getting fired? And do you think Ime Udoka could, I guess, turn their season around?
as a Nets fan, I don't think there's any fan or even player on the team that wanted to keep Steve Nash because you could see so many people saw last year that when they had problems, it almost seemed like it was definitely Steve Nash's fault, whether it's the rotations or just how they play. It didn't really seem to make much sense. But this year, there's definitely more problems than just Steve Nash, as the depth is pretty much just Nick Claxton and Joe Harris. So there's really not much help for KD, Kyrie. I mean Simmons, but with the way he played, it's kind of tough. So I don't know. It's hard to say that he'll help the Nets that much, but I feel any coach, any interim could help the Nets get a little bit better, especially with some of the talent that they have.
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, I feel like see, I like Steve Nash. I mean, people that probably check out my page and everything like that, they probably don't realize that like outside of Derrick Rose, Steve Nash is my next favorite point guard of all time. So me personally, like seeing all the slander that he's gotten a lot over the years, like I personally take offense to that too because I'm like, dude, it's Steve Nash. Like he's one of the greatest players of all time. He's one of the greatest basketball minds of all time. And I don't think it's that like he just didn't know what he was doing necessarily. I just think that he just never had the control, maybe. And I think that's the biggest problem there is that, part of that is, him not being maybe as vocal, as a player or as a coach or anything like that. I think when he got thrown out of that game a few weeks ago or a week ago or something, that was probably the first time he was actually really vocal as a coach, right? And you rarely even saw that from him as a player. I mean, he was always scrappy and everything like that. I mean, there's you could find clips of him like when remember like the one time I think he was like bleeding out his nose or something, like he cranked it back into place and then like he had like black eye after black eye and everything like that. Like so I mean, I think like part of that though, you know, it falls kind of on him, maybe not being like as assertive of a coach. I think it also falls on the players a little bit for not, giving him the respect he deserves. I mean, outside of maybe Kevin Durant, like no one on that whole team has accomplished what Steve Nash has accomplished in the NBA. Maybe you could say Kyrie won a ring. I probably wouldn't say that in terms of legacy compares to Steve Nash, and everyone else I think just follows behind that. But yeah, so I think personally it goes a little bit both ways. I think it also goes with, Sean Marks. I mean, he put Steve Nash in a situation that was weird because it's like he had no coaching experience before that, right? And he gets thrown into a situation where it's like you got to manage, Durant and Kyrie's personalities. Then after a week and a half together, like they add Harden to the mix, and then they get rid of Harden and everything like that, and then it was just a lot. Then you got to manage Ben Simmons, so I don't know. I mean, personally for me, like I know the Nets aren't the worst record in the league, but right now they probably might be the worst team in the league. I don't know. I feel bad saying that. I just feel like they are, like, in terms of dysfunction, the worst team in the league. And I know there's other teams like the Lakers have their own problems. Like the Pistons aren't great, the Magic aren't great, but like a lot of their problems like are just on the court. Like the Nets, they have problems on the court with communication, and then it also lingers off the court with like everything Kyrie does and everything like that. Like Ben Simmons as well, and this whole thing that's been going on with the coaching staff as well for a while. So I don't know. What do you think? Like you said Udoka could at least benefit more than Nash. I mean, I kind of agree with that a little bit. Like he'll hold him maybe more accountable, but I think a total fix might seem like a miracle at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible not to love Steve Nash as a player. I feel like everyone knows he's a great player, but there's so much that goes into coaching that we just don't understand. Just the way the players respond to him, and he even said that I saw. He said the
Mm-hmm.
players weren't responding to him, and that just the point he got to. If you can't resonate with them and you can't lead them, then you're not going to win. And I don't know if the Nets are the worst team in the league, but they could definitely be in the argument for the most dysfunctional since they have such great players and they just can't seem to win games and they look pretty ugly losing games. But there's so many, like a new coach could come in, new players could come in. Seth Curry's injured, so there's tons of different things that could happen over an 82 game season that could really help turn a team around, as we've seen in the last few years with teams that started off bad. Maybe the Celtics last year had a really bad stretch in the beginning, but then they found their stride, and all of a sudden they're in the finals.
Yeah, by worst team, I was more on like the fact where it's like they just aren't, they don't seem collective like together. Like they don't seem like a team unified. Like talent wise, they're better than majority of teams in the league. But I just feel like even like compared to the Magic, like I said, or who else, like Houston or something, clearly they're better than these teams. It's just I feel like those teams in particular maybe play with more passion and they kind of like feed off each other better than the Nets do right now. And I think that's the thing, that you don't really see these great teams like that as well. But I think, yeah, part of it, like, I feel like it was kind of Steve Nash was kind of done for almost before he started. I mean, when Kyrie said, like, we basically don't need a coach or whatever, and then like, I think KD co-signed that as well. So I don't know. I feel like that was already like the first straw, and then it just only got worse from there. Um, but yeah, if you want though, I mean, we can move on. We don't need to focus too much on the Nets. We could talk about some, I guess, early season impressions. So we could give each other our top three picks for MVP, for Rookie of the Year, and Most Improved, because I feel like those are the three awards that people care about the most. Maybe Defensive Player of the Year, but I feel like that's kind of hard right now. But I mean, you could give me your top three for MVP, or actually no, you know what? Top three for Most Improved first. We'll go backwards.
Okay. So for most improved, it's always kind of tough because you really don't want to give it to the second year guys because like they're supposed to make a jump in the second year, I think. But if a player makes a big enough jump, then it could be them. Before the season, my top two picks were Anthony Edwards and Tyrese Maxey, and I think they're both still in the conversation. Like Edwards could play so well any night, and he's just in a spot where his team can make a decent sized playoff run where they could be a top seed because they got better players if they could really figure it out together. And then two players who I think have really put themselves in the conversation right now are one, Keldon Johnson, who was just playing out of his mind. If you look at his stats, and he's not a player who's really on a great team. But if he could keep playing like this somehow, then he'll definitely be in the conversation. And then there's Markkinen, who I don't see keeping this up all year. But if he does, and their team stays playing well, then he could definitely be in that conversation.
Yeah, I think for my most improved player, I was tempted to put Desmond Bain. I didn't really put him though, because I had him up there for most improved most of last year. So I guess he'd be like an honorable mention. I think another guy that's like been overlooked is Kevin Huerter. I think he's played really good with the Kings. He's averaging I think like 19 points a game, shooting way better from the field, way better from three. Just the Kings haven't been great. But my top two, I mean, you said them. So second, I had Keldon Johnson on my list. He's just looked insane, and I think the Spurs have probably been the second biggest surprise of the start of this season, and the only bigger surprise has probably been the Jazz, and that's why I have Lauri Markkanen. Maybe a little biased because he did play for my Bulls for 4 years, and I always loved Markkanen and everything like that. But I don't know. I just think it's very impressive what he's been doing, and who knows if the Jazz keep playing like this, they have a mix of like young guys and veterans. Maybe they don't make a move until like the summer or something like that. But yeah, so I guess like for rookie of the year now, your top three, what do you got?
Yeah, so before the year, I feel like once Chet went down, there's only a few players that really seemed like they had a chance at the award. And I feel like it's Banchero's to lose, and it will be. But obviously, Mathurin has been playing out of his mind. And if he could keep playing like this, then it'll make it tough for Banchero to, like, he'll make it tough on him. Maybe he'll be a really close race. But the third one is definitely a tougher call. I feel like it's a big gap, or at least a little gap in between Banchero and Mathurin for the top two. But I'd say Keegan Murray could be someone who just look for when picking the rookie of the year.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we have the same people in our top three. If I mean, my third was also Keegan Murray. He's actually played really good, and I mean, based on summer league, I believe he was summer league MVP. If I'm correct, and I mean, he just missed a couple games early in the year. Um, but he's looked pretty good too. If the Kings can maybe start winning a little bit more, I think that'll definitely help his case. But the top two, I mean, right now it looks like Paolo Banchero and Benedict Mathurin. I would give the edge to Banchero. I just feel like he's been more consistent. Like, I think the other night was like the first time he scored below 20 points in a game, and I think he scored still like 15. Mathurin, he's been great. Very efficient shooter as well. He's kind of, basically his game is everything that you want from a guard in the modern NBA. Someone who can attack the basket at a high level and someone who can shoot the three at a high level. And that's basically what he does. He operates mainly in those two spots a lot. And I feel like just the one thing that Paulo does a little bit better is he kind of has a more complete game. He plays, I feel like, more like a veteran than Mathurin. Although Mathurin, I think he has the mindset like a veteran already, if that makes sense. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be those two throughout the season, and Keegan Murray's another guy to keep an eye on. But I guess for MVP, top three, what do you got?
So my third choice, I had trouble with. I was debating between a few because obviously the MVP is such a voter award. They don't give it to the best player, and their team has to be at a specific point in the standings usually for them to even get consideration. So I think John Morant could be in the MVP running if he could keep playing like this. I'm pretty sure he's at over 30 points per game right now, which is probably not sustainable for him. But if he stays up there and their team is winning games towards the end of the year, he could definitely pick up some votes. My second is probably the best player in the league, and that's Giannis. I think they're going to win enough games. Obviously, they're not going to stay undefeated all year, but he's definitely going to be someone who's going to be people are going to be mad about if he doesn't win MVP, and some people might be mad about if he does win MVP, as we've seen when he's already won. And he was my pick before the year. He was honestly my pick before last year, but he lost pretty quickly, and that's Luka. I feel like Luka is a player that just does so much, and if his team is winning games, he puts up so many different stats, and he could help his team win in so many ways that he's someone that definitely, if not this year, will definitely win an MVP. I feel like this year is the year he can get his first.
Yeah, so prior to the season, I did pick Luka as my MVP pick. Right now, I would say he's in like the very close honorable mention pool, mainly because the Mavericks have been a little up and down. But I think stat wise, he's probably put up the most impressive numbers in the league so far. I would also put Ja Morant in that pool just because he was close with him and who I did pick as third. But I mean, Ja did miss a game, and I think his cast is a little bit better than this guy had third. Even though this guy's missed one game, going to be 2 games, I believe now, after tonight. And so at number 3, I had Damian Lillard. I thought, last week when he was completely healthy, I was like, all right, he's my MVP frontrunner. I mean, now you missed a game. He's going to miss a second game tonight. I mean, with such a small sample size, I mean, that does take a play into this. So I have him third. Number 2, I have someone you didn't even mention, and that's Donovan Mitchell. I think that he's played insane. I mean, I saw him live play against my Bulls. Literally took us to town. He cooked us. And, for the season, I mean, Darius Garland went down the first, 14 minutes. He's basically stepped into that role, a completely new situation for him. And they haven't even missed a beat, really. So I think him averaging 33 and 7, career high in assists per game, career high in points per game. He's shooting at an unreal level right now, and the Cavs are, I believe, the second or third best team in the NBA right now as well. I just think it's impressive. And number 1, I got to go with Giannis. Only undefeated team, still doing Giannis-like things. So I guess I would have to roll with him right now. But yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean Donovan Mitchell, he's obviously playing out of his mind right now, but I was thinking more just of how they've been so far is if they could sustain it the entire season. And I feel like he's a player that has had cold and hot streaks in his career. So if he can keep this up, then for sure he'll be one of those MVP candidates. But can he keep this up is the question that we'll have to see answered.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. But yeah, are you ready to jump into the game here at the end?
Yes, sir.
All right, so it's the 20 questions game. Basically, last year I gave you trivia and everything like that. I said this year I'm not gonna put so much effort into it. The guests have to put some effort into it. So basically, if you know how 20 questions work, you can keep asking me a question, hints, and stuff like that. Like, is it a player, or is it a coach, or is he in this conference? Something like that. It could be a current player, current coach, former player, former coach, anything like that. A team as well. And basically, you have to ask 20 questions, and you get more points for using less questions. Now, you can guess one. You can make an actual guess after every question. You're only allowed one after every question, and that doesn't count toward your 20 questions. So, hopefully that makes sense. But are you ready?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
Okay. So, the very first question you can ask away.
Okay. Is he an active player?
Yes.
All right. I feel like that makes it easier on me. Okay.
Maybe.
Is he? Am I good to go to my next question?
Yeah, you can go to the next one.
Okay. Is he a guard?
Yes.
2 for 2. Is he in the Eastern Conference?
Yes, he is.
All right. Is he in the Atlantic?
Hold on a second.
Nets, Celtics, Knicks, Raptors, 76ers?
No. Yeah, I didn't think he was, but no, he's not.
So you don't know what team he's on?
No, I know what team he's on. I sometimes the divisions throw me off a little bit. I gotta double check him. So no, he is not in the Atlantic Division, but he is in the Eastern Conference, and he's a guard, active player.
Guard, active player. Is he a point guard?
He is a point guard.
debating if I should go with another division here. I know. Yeah, I'll ask you the division. Is he in like the Bucks division? Bucks, Cavs, Bulls, Pacers,
He
Pistons?
he is not. No.
Okay. All right. So I'm the 5 teams. What question am I on? You got this counted?
You got 6 questions you've used so far.
Okay. Is he a starting point guard for his team?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna make a guess here because I feel like that's an opportunity to get more points.
All right.
I'm gonna go with Trae Young.
It is not Trae Young.
Okay.
So you've used 7 right now.
So, just going to my immediate guess. Has he been hurt to start the season?
Yes.
Is it LaMelo Ball?
It is LaMelo Ball. Yes.
Uh,
Not bad. Not bad. So that gets you use 8 questions. Like I said, every guess, you get 1 guess each. Those don't count toward questions. So 8 questions used. So that's 13 points that you got so far.
Nice.
All right. This one might get a little harder, but we'll see. So the second one, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Ask away.
Is he a retired player?
He is. Yes.
I saw that one coming. Okay. Did he retire in the 2010s?
No.
Okay. Did he retire in the 2000s?
No.
Oh boy, kind of old head. Okay. Is he known for playing on mainly one team?
I would say yes. I mean, I guess that gives away that he played for multiple teams, but I would say yes, he's more known for one specific team.
Okay. Is that team in the Eastern Conference?
Yes.
Oh. I feel like I assume he's an all-star, correct?
Is that your next question?
Yeah.
Was he an all-star?
Yeah.
He was an all-star.
Okay. Was he in the Atlantic? Celtics, this team, Celtics, Raptors, 76ers, Knicks, yeah?
Yes, he was.
Like the main team that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Was he a net?
You say was he on the Nets?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Was he a Knick?
No.
Okay. Is he a center?
He is. Yes.
He's a center. Okay.
So you've used 10 questions right now. You're halfway through. But yeah, you're still doing good.
Right there. Was he? I feel like the team was probably the Celtics.
Are you asking was he on the Celtics?
Yeah. Was he the Celtics?
Yes.
Okay. So Celtics center. I mean, there's one coming to mind. I don't know if he was on 2 teams. Okay.
I mean, you can guess a player right now if you want.
So what's the player guessing rules again?
So if you guess a player, like it doesn't affect your like question number. So like you've used 11 right now, so you can guess one player before it counts for like question number 12.
Right, but I could guess a player on every single question.
No, you don't. You don't have to on every question. I'm just saying you can if you want.
I could, and there's no penalty.
Yes, I mean it would I guess benefit you because you get at least one chance before.
Right. Yeah, so I could have said LaMelo before asking if he was hurt.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna go with Robert Parrish.
It is Robert Parrish. Yes.
Let's go.
That's pretty good. That's a 10-pointer right there.
I'll take that.
Yeah, he played for a few teams. He started with the Warriors, then he got traded to Boston. Then he was in the Hornets for a few years, and he actually played 1 year with the Bulls alongside Jordan when they won a championship too. So that's why the team I was thinking was the Celtics, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the only team I knew he was on for sure.
So right now you got 23 points. Now, this is the last question of these. So there's only 3 questions on this one. So are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. You can ask away.
Are we back to an active player?
It is not an active player.
Is he a former player?
He is not a former player.
Is he a coach?
He is a coach.
All right. I should have said current coach. Current coach.
Are you asking, is he a current coach? Wait, did you ask, is he a current coach?
Yes.
He is a current coach.
Okay. Is he coaching in the Western Conference?
He is, yes.
Does he have championships? At least one.
Yes, he does.
So you could have answered that in a way to trick me, like, yeah, Greg Popovich might have a championship.
Well, though, I mean, when you know who this player is at the end, you're gonna understand, I guess, why I was hesitant. But yeah, so yes, he does have a championship.
Okay. Yes, he has one as a head coach.
Is that your next question? Does he have one as a head coach?
No. So I know he's a coach in the Western Conference. That's all I know. And he's won a championship. Is he a Pacific? Yeah, Pacific coach. Suns, Lakers, Clippers, Warriors.
He is. He is in the Pacific Division.
All right. I don't think it's Steve Kerr. I'm trying to think of who the other coaches are. Oh, I feel good about this one, but I have no idea if he has a championship. Okay, I'm gonna guess Monty.
It is not Monty Williams.
Not Monty. That gets one out of my way.
So you've only used 7 right now. You've only used 7 questions.
I'm at great pace. I mean, I have no idea. The Lakers coach, his name's Darwin. I have no idea who he was before he got hired. But I do know his name is Darwin.
So
if he has a championship.
So you can ask another hint before you guess as well to help you out. But yeah.
Yeah, I should, right?
Yeah, because regardless, you're still gonna get, if you get it on the next one, you're only gonna get credit for 13 points instead of 14.
Okay. So does he coach in LA?
He does not coach in LA.
All right. So
That was
who's
a good
that other
question.
coach? Thank you. Really took out another team. I'm trying to think of who that last coach is. Oh. The Kings coach. See, here's where it could be like, oh yeah, did he win a championship? Did Steve Kerr win any? I don't know. I'm gonna go with Mike Brown. Is that who the coach is?
It is Mike Brown. Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah. See, the reason I was hesitant is because he won some with the Warriors as an assistant, right? But he never actually won a championship as a head coach. So
Right. So he has rings in it.
I wasn't sure if that's what you were alluding to though, or not necessarily. But yeah. All right. So you got 13 points on Mike Brown, you got 10 on Robert Parrish, and you got 13 on LaMelo Ball. So overall, that is 36 points. That's pretty good.
Has to put me in the winning conversation.
Well, it is pretty early in the season, but I will tell you right now, you are on top of the leaderboard.
Let's go. Love to hear that.
We'll see if that stands through the course of time, but currently, I mean, that's pretty good. I think 36 isn't bad.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
All right, before we go, I will ask you though, just to give me one player you do like and one player you don't like.
As a person.
It could be anything. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
Like on the
okay.
court or
One player I do like is Andre Drummond. I feel like he gets a lot of hate. Can I give an explanation on why?
You can give an explanation.
Yeah, I feel like he gets a lot of hate. I feel like he's just a fun player that really gets scrappy down there and gets his rebounds. He might not be pretty to watch, but he's just a good guy. And one player I don't like is usually when I like or don't like a player, it's because how other fans like him. And I feel like Chris Middleton has always been someone that's just a little bit overrated. So he's always gotten to me a bit. I mean, he did have that playoff run where he looked really good, but
Yeah.
other than that, he's just been so Chris Middleton. And it's just hard for me to root for him.
Yeah, I know that your disdainment for Chris Middleton goes very deep.
It really does.
But yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you giving me those. That will be used on a later episode. Not today though, of course. But yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you guys for watching. You got any final thoughts?
Thank you for having me. I always love being here. It really gets me to dig more into my basketball knowledge because I feel like at this point in my life, I'm not as into it, but I still love basketball. So I always love talking about it on the show. And thank you for having me. And to all the fans, I hope you enjoyed my appearance.
For sure. We'll have to do another debate again sometime because I think those were really great too. Hopefully next time too, my camera throughout is better. I don't know if you noticed, like the whole second half it was kind of crazy, but I mean the good thing is most people I feel like just listen more so than watch, so it is what it is. I guess you guys can be the judge in the comments below about whether you do or don't. But if you do watch, then I'm sorry that I look like a robot for most of it. It'll be better next week, but yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys for watching, and we're out. Peace.